Here you go. Thank you. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Lizeth Bertano, and today I will be discussing the topic of euthanasia and assisted suicide. Before I start, I would like to get started with some questions. Anyone can answer, feel free. Do you believe that the government should protect the lives of the sick, dying, or physically and mentally impaired?
Yeah.
Why?
Yes, well, yes, only, but not if they don't want to go on living.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
Well, they need support. They do, just because of their conditions.
Okay.
It depends on the condition though. If someone has like a terminal illness when they're not gonna make it and they don't wanna keep suffering, then you can't tell them to continue suffering.
Good response. Another question. Do you believe that the state has the right to allow suicide or the administration of lethal drugs? And why?
I don't think it should be called suicide, nor do I think it should be the state.
Assisted suicide, sorry.
I don't think it should be the state, I think it should be up to the person. I don't think the state could make that kind of decision.
But do you think they should allow it, like for the person to?
Yes, because I don't think it's a matter where the state should have to say.
Okay. Anyone else?
I agree with her because, like, people actually get like those little wristband thingamabobs that say, "Oh, I don't want to be
DNRs?
yeah." So
Yeah.
I feel
Resuscitated.
yeah. So it's like, yeah, if that's not what you want, if you don't want to go through life with like problems from a stroke or a heart attack, you might as well not.
Thank you for participating. Euthanasia, by definition of Jennifer Vico McDougall, something like that, author of Euthanasia, a reference handbook, states, euthanasia, from the Greek words meaning good death, is something we do or fail to do, which causes or is intended to cause death in order to remove a person from suffering. This is sometimes called mercy killing. Some of you may be wondering, what is the difference between euthanasia and assisted suicide? Assisted suicide refers to an act by which one assists another in taking his or her own life. A physician, for example, who engages in assisted suicide would, upon the patient's request, provide the deadly drugs for the person to use. There are two types of euthanasia. Active euthanasia refers to an action one takes to end a life. Lethal injection would be one example. Passive euthanasia refers to omission, such as failing to intervene at a life-threatening crisis or failing to provide nourishment. Euthanasia allows the right to choose, protect selfhood, and protect human dignity. Valentina, I'm gonna chop up the names, just FYI. Valentina Morella, something like that. She was a 14-year-old Chilean suffering from cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis affects cells that produce mucus, sweat, and digestive juices. It causes the fluids to become thick and sticky, that they then plug up tubes, ducts, and passageways, making this a life-threatening disease. Valentina pled with Chilean President Michelle Bachelet for permission to end her life. She made international news after posting a video from her hospital bed. As stated on dailymail.com, where her video has been uploaded, she said, "I urgently request to speak to the president because I am tired of living with this illness. I want her approval so I can get a shot that will make me sleep forever." Unfortunately, she was rejected by the government. After suffering for months after being denied, Valentina passed away on May 14, 2015. I'm sure many of you guys have heard Brittany Maynard, My Right to Death with Dignity. Brittany Maynard was 29 years old and wanted the right to end her life through euthanasia. After months of suffering from excruciating headaches, she learned she had brain cancer. Brittany had just been married a little over a year, and her husband were trying for a family. In hopes of stopping growth of the tumor, she had a partial craniotomy, I can't pronounce it, sorry, and partial resection of her temporal lobe in April. In April, she learned the tumor came back and was more aggressive, giving her a prognosis of 6 months to live. Her doctors prescribed full radiation of the brain. Maynard read the side effects, some including her hair falling off and even first-degree burns on her scalp. After months of searching for treatments, Brittany and her family came to accept there was nothing that could be done to save her life. Maynard considered spending the last few days living in a hospice care, but she knew she'd die in pain due to her body potentially being morphine resistant. She realized that her body was young and healthy, and she would physically hang on longer, and even though her cancer would eat away at her brain. She would have suffered in a hospice care for weeks or even months. She didn't want this nightmare scenario for her family, so she began researching euthanasia and assisted suicide. This would allow her to use medical practice of aid in dying process if it became unbearable. Maynard unfortunately had to move to Oregon from California because Oregon is one of 5 states where death with dignity is authorized. Brittany it wasn't just as easy as visiting Oregon and getting the drugs in her possession. She had to find new physicians, she had to have a new home, driver's license, and even change her voting registration, becoming an official resident of Oregon. Maynard had her ticket out of pain in a prescription bottle. She came to terms with death and was aware she wasn't suicidal. She didn't want to die, but knew she was dying. She waited until after her husband's birthday on October 26th. Maynard died 5 days later on November 1st, 2014, with dignity. For the following, I will be reading statements and you guys will answer if it is truth or myth. There's only 2, don't worry. Do most terminally ill people seek suicide? Truth or myth?
True.
Myth. Only a small percentage of terminally ill or severely ill patients attempt or commit suicide. This is off an article. Okay. Results for suicide represent a person's true desire. Truth or myth?
Truth. Can't have 2 myths.
I do though. Patients who desire suicide or an early death during terminal illness are usually suffering from a treatable mental illness, most commonly depression. Euthanasia is an ethical practice that should be legal as it provides a humane, dignified way to end unnecessary pain and suffering of patients suffering from terminal illness, terminal diseases that have been diagnosed at lost cost. Thank you. Was that